Welcome to Asia Outlook. I'm Melody and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Naypyidaw for his state visit to Myanmar. During his two-day stay, President Xi Jinping attended a series of events by President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, U Win Myint, and held talks with State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. The Chinese president also joined Myanmar leaders in celebration to mark the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the countries, as well as a ceremony that launched their joint culture and tourism year. It was President Xi's maiden overseas trip this year and the first visit to Myanmar by a sitting Chinese president in 19 years. Chinese President Xi Jinping, who paid a state visit to Myanmar, attended a welcome ceremony in Naypyidaw, Myanmar, held by his counterpart, Myanmar President U Win Myint, on Friday. Let's take a look at the ceremony. Chinese President Xi Jinping held talks with State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar's capital, Naypyidaw. Let's take at the moment they met at the presidential palace and discussed issues of mutual concern. Chinese President Xi Jinping attended a grand welcome banquet hosted by Myanmar President U Win Myint in Naypyidaw on Friday evening. Xi arrived earlier on Friday for a state visit to the Southeast Asian country. China and Myanmar agreed to expand ties and pledged to deepen cooperation. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar. The two said they agreed to build a community with a shared future. They also signed a joint statement reaffirming to resolve to enhance ties and cooperate more under the China Belt and Road Initiative. She also calls for a systematic layout to implement the next phase of cooperation between the two neighbors. After talks, the two attended a signing ceremony on various deals, including trade and people-to-people exchanges. To more on this joint statement, CGTN Zhu Dan has more.
He held formal talks with Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi on Saturday. He also met with Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services, Min Aung Hlaing, and also exchanged views with the leaders of Myanmar's parliament and political parties. Aung San Suu Kyi said President Xi's visit is a landmark. It will greatly deepen the friendship between Myanmar and China and also promote cooperation between the two countries. Meanwhile, China and Myanmar released a joint statement pledging to further collaborate in several areas. They aim to strengthen cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as the development of the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor. Also, the statement highlights the importance of cultural exchanges for better relations among the peoples of the two countries. China and Myanmar have also agreed to uphold safety in their border areas. While the two sides exchange more letters and protocols and covering 33 projects. All in all, more than just the deepening of bilateral ties, the meaning of Balpo friendship between China and Myanmar has now translated into stronger cooperative partnership, enhanced cultural exchanges, more jobs, and an improved quality of for the people of Myanmar.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Myanmar's military chief, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. Xi stressed that the people of China and Myanmar are the backbone of bilateral ties. He reiterated the importance of upholding safety to create favorable conditions for economic development along their border. The senior general pledged to improve relations and promote the vision of a shared future. The Chinese president said the two sides have also agreed to give further play to the leading role of the Jiaopu Special Economic Zone project in the economic corridor, advance the construction of the China-Myanmar Border Economic Cooperation Zone and a new urban development of Yangon City, and make overall arrangements to boost the interconnectivity of roads, railways, and power grids. Let's hear more.
Kyaukphyu Port is on the Bay of Bengal in Myanmar's westernmost state of Rakhine. It's planned to be Myanmar's biggest deepwater port, taking advantage of its deep channel and peaceful waters. The town of Kyaukphyu is also the terminus of a $1.5 billion oil pipeline and parallel natural gas pipeline running to Kunming in the southwest of China. China and Myanmar signed an agreement to build the Kyaukphyu Special Economic Zone's deep-sea port in December 2018, the first big joint project of the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor. The next big step came in July 2019, when the two sides launched an assessment of the port's environmental and social impact. The port will give China a shipping alternative to the vulnerable Strait of Malacca that runs between Malaysia and Indonesia. It will allow goods from Europe, Africa, and the Middle East to be shipped to Kyaukphyu and then overland to China's Yunnan province. Cutting thousands of miles from a journey now currently entails sailing to the South China Sea to ports along China's southern and eastern coasts, and then traveling overland to China's western provinces. While the port makes sense for China, it will also benefit Myanmar. With the help of the accompanying Special Economic Zone, the project will drive the economy of areas along the corridor. 100,000 jobs are expected to be created, and the Special Economic Zone is forecast to generate $14 billion of tax.
This is Asia Outlook broadcasting from Myanmar International Radio. You can visit our website at miradio.com.mm. You can also listen to our radio programs live on the website. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani dismissed a so-called plan as a replacement for the 2015 nuclear pact. Rouhani said it was a strange offer and criticized the U.S. President Donald Trump for always breaking promises. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Tuesday called for President Trump to replace the Iranian nuclear deal with his own pact. The Trump administration quit the deal in 2018, wanting Iran to accept more stringent terms. 3 European signatories triggered the dispute mechanism on Tuesday that could lead to new sanctions on Iran. Iran Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif argued on Wednesday that the move is legally baseless, saying the deal is still alive and that its future depends on Europe. Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn presided over an oath-taking ceremony on Saturday at an army base where almost 7,000 soldiers and police paraded to mark Armed Forces Day.
ซึ่งจัดจากกองบังคับการปกครองโรงเรียนในร้อยตำรวจ
Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Friday called on national unity and a high turnout in February election, after protests erupted following the military's admission that it has shot down an airliner by mistake during a confrontation with the United States.
Iran's Supreme Leader has called for national unity in a rare Friday prayer sermon. It comes as the government deals with growing public discontent over how it handled last week's air disaster, in which the military admitted to shooting down a passenger jet, believing it to be a missile and a threat to national security. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said although the incident was a bitter tragedy, it should not overshadow the injustice served upon the country's top commander, Qasem Soleimani, who was assassinated by the U.S. earlier this month. Khamenei added that Iran had the capacity to hurt America.
A temporary animal hospital established in a Kangaroo Island Wildlife Park in South Australia has received over 300 injured animals in recent days as devastating bushfires rage across the country and caused the death of over 500 million wild animals.
We've treated now well over 300 different animals of various species. The main animals we're seeing are koalas, but we've treated kangaroos, wallabies, possums and birds, reptiles, and even some domestic animals as well.
We know that Kangaroo Island has been through some really difficult times recently with very major bushfires. The bushfires have damaged up to half of the island's environment, caused significant impact to our beautiful and unique wildlife. Recovery of this environment will take several years.
This is Asia Outlook broadcasting live from Myanmar International Radio. On FM, make sure you catch us on 96.1 FM in Yangon, 96.5 in Mandalay, and 96.7 in Naypyidaw. You can also download MI Radio app on both iOS and Android devices for your own convenience. As trade and investment become a dominant theme for China-Myanmar ties, it's not easy to forget that countless cultural exchanges are going on simultaneously. Let's take a listen.
A time-honored ball-pole friendship between China and Myanmar is the Myanmar word for siblings, and it tells of the frequent interactions between China and Myanmar, especially cultural ones. Multiple cultural events have been held to enhance ties and boost people-to-people exchanges, from the annual China-Myanmar Ball-pole Carnival to language learning and exchange programs. Myanmar has also broadcast a wide range of Chinese TV series, including modern hits and classics.
Journey to the West.
Journey to the West has been broadcast at least 3 times on Myanmar's TV stations. Myanmar people like this TV series very much. Myanmar can draw on China's development experience through cooperation. I think our country can learn from China's arts field.
And Myanmar is becoming a more popular destination for Chinese travelers. Over 300,000 Chinese tourists visited in the first 6 months of last year, a 140% increase compared with the same period in 2018.
The year 2020 marks the 70th anniversary of Myanmar-China ties. It also coincides with the opening of the Myanmar-China Cultural Tourism Year. Tourism is important for our country's development, and it's also for our people's friendship.
To boost tourism, Myanmar has granted visas on arrival to Chinese travelers since October 2018. And there are more than 150 direct flights between the two countries each week, 7 times more than that of 3 years ago. With the easier travel requirements and cultural exchanges, the two sides expect the ties between their people to become even stronger. Victor Ning, CGTN.
Many have been killed and others are still trapped after multiple avalanches in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. Authorities say the death toll has risen to at least 100 across the country, with 76 deaths reported in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The worst affected area was Kashmir's Neelam Valley. Rescuers raced to reach scores of people believed to still be trapped inside their homes. With many roads still blocked by snow, authorities used helicopters to evacuate the injured. Local residents described the disaster.
There has been landslide in the area from the front and behind, which has affected the area. You can see this debris lying in front of you. 4 houses have been completely damaged, and there have been 3 casualties.
In the upper Neelam area, where my relatives live, they experienced a snowfall of approximately 11 to 12 feet, and there is no access to the area. No ground or air communication is working, and we're not receiving any information about our relatives. We don't know what to do.
Ukraine local media reported that the bodies of those on airliner accidentally shot down by Iranian forces are scheduled to be reiterated on Sunday. The Boeing 737 passenger plane crashed near Tehran earlier this month. All 176 people on board were killed. Many of the victims were Canadians. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Friday urged Iran to send black boxes to France for analysis. France is one of the fewer countries with ability to read flight and copy data recorders from the jet which were badly damaged. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif on Saturday warned against any attempt to politicize the plane crash. That is the end of international news. Now we take a look at what is happening around Myanmar with our local news. China has always been the largest and the biggest neighbor country of Myanmar, and there is so much cooperation between the two countries in terms of socially, economically, and politically. Today, MI Radio team went out to ask for people's voice and people's opinion on Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit. Dora has more.
Hello everyone, this is your reporter Dora reporting you from MI Radio. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited to Naypyidaw, the capital city, for his 2-day visit in Myanmar. China's always been the largest and the biggest neighboring countries of Myanmar, and we had a lot of cooperation in terms of socially, economically, and politically. So today, our MI Radio team going around Naypyidaw to ask for people's voices and people's opinions on President Xi's visit to Myanmar. So let's take a look. Wu Dingwei, who is the resident from Tayagong Ward, opened his feelings about President Xi's visit. He thinks that Chinese President's visit to Myanmar can be regarded as friendly visit, and it seems as they care about Myanmar in terms of economically and socially, and also expecting to have benefits for Myanmar. And he also thinks that it is a good thing that Myanmar is cooperating and discussing with other countries for Myanmar's economic development. And he also said that as a Myanmar citizen, he thinks Myanmar should be negotiating with other countries to prevent the dangerous things to happen for the country. Also about the two countries' relationship, he said that China and Myanmar have always been good friends from the start, and they are friendly to each other since his childhood till today. Wu Dingwei also mentioned that Myanmar is lag behind in social and economic growth rather than other countries, so he thinks Myanmar should cooperate with other countries and learn more about their industrial development, agricultural development, and business development. He also said that it is better to learn from them and try to catch up with their development. During the 70 years of relationship between China and Myanmar, both countries are cooperating in many aspects, especially trade and economic development. Today, we have met with Mme Myomyo Toe, a local who is living in Yamana for a long time. So we asked her about what is her feeling for President Xi's visit to Myanmar. She also mentioned that as a local people, she had used many Chinese products in the country, and she thinks that their products can be used by different layers of people with different qualities. She also said for the products, there are so many items to choose, and she thinks it is useful for the people. She also thinks that this time visit will have good effects on two countries' economy. Our another citizen on the list is Uso Lai, who is a retired township education officer and currently the headmaster of Tinya Bandai private-owned high school. During the interview, Uso Lai generally mentioned about national peace and China-Myanmar relationship on peace process. He said that all the people are hoping for the peace, and he has seen many news about China is trying to help Myanmar to successfully sign the National Ceasefire Agreement (NCA) with 4 alliance groups in the north. He also said that people will be glad to have national peace and stability to develop a happy and peaceful life. Also about China and Myanmar relationship, he mentioned that people are hoping to get signed NCA with all the groups which are left to sign, and he thinks China and Myanmar have always been a friendly neighbors, and also with bilateral relationship, it will be good to help to each other. Uso Lai also mentioned that our country's development depends on world's economic growth, so he thinks that the increase in productivity and investment into the country will raise the figure up. And he also again expressed that if the country doesn't have peace and stability, war can cause so much and the economy will suffer from this. Okay, so that's all about people's voice and people's opinions that our MI radio team have asked around Naypyidaw. So that's all about for today. We will be updating you with more update news in the late hours. Thank you so much for listening.
On the second day of Chinese President Xi Jinping's 2-day visit to Myanmar, China-Myanmar bilateral meeting was held at Presidential Palace in Naypyidaw.
Hello everyone, this is your reporter daughter reporting you from Naypyidaw. On the second day of Chinese President Xi Jinping's 2-day visit to Myanmar, China-Myanmar bilateral meeting was held at Presidential Palace in Naypyidaw. State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi and Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the meeting and had bilateral discussions between two countries. In this meeting, the two sides discussed about peace and development, to negotiate with ethnic armed groups which haven't signed the National Ceasefire Agreement (NCA), and in order to take part in national peace process. Also, to develop the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor (CMEC), Jiaopyu Special Economic Zone and Deep Sea Port Project, China-Myanmar Economic Zones and new urban development of Yangon City, and also about industrial, electricity, infrastructure, agriculture, investment, and trade development in Myanmar. They are also involved about Myanmar imports to China and also building the relationships between the people of the two countries based on mutual understanding and trust and create a peaceful, tranquil environment. China and Myanmar, the two countries established their diplomatic relations on 8 June 1950, and this year marked the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between the two countries. Also, the experts have already guessed that this time visit of Chinese president will boost the relationship and also the cooperation between the two countries. Many have believed that some important agreements, such as China's Belt and Road Initiative, will be made between the two governments during the visit. After the meeting, State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi and Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the signing ceremony of the Memorandums of Understanding (MOUs), agreements, exchange letters, and protocols based on the bilateral agreement between the two countries. During the event, the both sides signed 33 MOUs, agreements, exchange letters, and protocols, which covered all the aspects including economic, trade, agriculture, information and media exchanges, infrastructure development, and so on. Among those signed documents, there were concession agreement and shareholders agreement of Jiaopyu Special Economic Zone Deep Sea Port Project. Handover and receipt of detailed feasibility study reports of Mandalay-Tijai-Musa Expressway and Jiaopyu-Naypyidaw Highway projects. Letter of intent regarding new urban development of Yangon City. MOU on local cooperation under the framework of Joint Building China-Myanmar Economic Corridor (CMEC) between Yunnan Province of China and Mandalay region of Myanmar, which are part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Moreover, signing of other important agreements like Protocol on Plant Inspection and Quarantine requirements for exporting rice from Myanmar to China. Handover certificate of the China Aid project of Yangon Police Command Center in Myanmar between the government of Myanmar and China. An agreement on cooperation between National Radio and Television Administration of China and Ministry of Information of Myanmar also included in the event. After the signing ceremony, Chinese President Xi Jinping and his delegation group were seen off by Vice President Wu Mian-sui at Naypyidaw International Airport and successfully completed the Chinese President's memorable 2-day visit to Myanmar. Okay, so that's all about the report now. This is your reporter Tora reporting you from Naypyidaw, and see you again.
That is the end of local news. And that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. I am Melody. We'll be back next time.